So let's talk about the three structures of the plant cell that are unique to them. These structures are found only in plant cells. They are not found in animal cells. Those three structures are the cell wall, chloroplast, and the central vacuole. So let's talk about the cell wall. I like to think about the cell wall like the Great Wall of China. China has its own border, so that would be our cell membrane. But surrounding the country of China is the Great Wall of China. And what that does is that provides extra protection, extra support. It's stronger than just saying you have a border because it is a solid thing. When you talk about your cell wall, it is much stronger, provides much more structure, much more support than the cell membrane. It does control what goes in and out of the cell to some degree. So it really does have a lot of functions in common with your cell membrane, but it is much stronger and it provides that extra added support. It also protects the cell from damage. And what it will do is it helps connect it to other plant cells. The chloroplasts are like the solar energy plant of the plant cell. And what happens is this is where sunlight gets captured and this is where photosynthesis occurs. This is where we have sunlight, water, and the nutrients in that from the soil, the water, all being captured, moved to this place, converted into our glucose that is then moved to the mitochondria, where the mitochondria converts it into ATP, which is the energy that we need for the cell in order for it to survive. Chloroplasts are like your mitochondria in that they have their own DNA. So this is yet another structure that we feel was an ancient prokaryote, meaning it was an ancient bacteria that moved inside another organism and they began to evolve together into what would be our plant cells eventually. The central vacuole is like this giant water tower. And yes, we can have vacuoles in animal cells, but when we are talking about the central vacuole in the plant cell, it is like a giant water tower. So it would be like saying, like the water reservoir up there by Dairy Queen on Freeport Road. It stores all of the water. It still stores a great deal of water. It is what is responsible for what we call plant turgidity. Plant turgidity is the fact of that plant standing up nice and tall and straight. If you've ever had a plant that you forgot to water and it started to wilt and droop over, that's the plant turgidity. And what has happened is that your central vacuole is empty and it needs to be refilled. When you refill that by giving your plant water, what happens is it takes and the plant perks back up and it's not droopy and limp and wilted over anymore. The last thing we need to talk about today is we need to talk about how cells move. There are a couple of structures that help our cells move. They are cilia and flagella. Cilia are like little tiny hair-like structures on the outside of the cell. They are composed of microtubules. They kind of flip and flop and sway back and forth. Your flagella is a whip-like structure. It is like a tail. They are less numerous than what we would see on cells than cilia. They are composed of microtubules, and the way they do movement is they whip that tail back and forth in order to create motion. That is the end of section 2 notes. Please make sure you finish those up and send them in to me.